What's up guys, welcome to another video, and today I'm going to discuss Imesety, who is the recently announced HOH. So I thought it was a good time to talk about him, especially because previously I've done the bulldozer and copper monster guides, so you can search those up and they go perfectly with Imesety. Alright, so Imesety sort of made that team possible, and for those of you who've watched my Guild Wars videos, I've been using him a lot recently, just because there's just so many teams that he counters. Like I feel like a lot of people haven't really sort of built around defending against him. I mean, it's not that easy to defend against as well, actually, because the way that it works is you try to make Imesety as fast as possible. And like with his base speed is not horrible, so short of say like a Bernard or Ryan, he's not scared of that many units on defense. Like in terms of getting outsped, as long as you give him pretty good speeds, and this allows your copper to snipe like the most problematic unit, and then you put like a bulldozer on Will, or you can do the other way around. You can have copper on Will, bulldozer not on Will, or just both on Will and make it flexible. But either way, you can sort of it lets you pick who to get rid of first, and then as long as there's no additional threat after that against your remaining nuker, you can snipe that guy too. And then you end up being the fight ends up being a 1v3. It's very easy to win from that, obviously. Short of people going crazy with violent procs maybe, but even then you have so much effective HP across all your units that at worst you probably just lose a unit or maybe two, but you should win in the end, right? I've been using this comp so many times, and maybe apart from like the first time I used it when I was completely noob with it, since then I only ever really lose one unit maximum. Right, and that's a very strong and easy to access offense team that you can use, and then your other team you can use like Phil Mars and a couple of supports, and then you've got two very solid Guild Wars offense teams to use against a lot of people. Alright, so let's talk about his skills real quick, just to explain why he's good. So the first ability, Overpower, it decreases the attack bar. So you've probably seen when I use him, like he can control the attack bar very well, right? Obviously it's not 100% reliable. Like even the max skilled, it's only an 80% chance to decrease attack bar. But when he does, like he moves like twice before the opponent can move again, and this is like fast fuel bars, right? I can control like how much they can move. So yeah, a lot of times you might see my Imesety move two times, and this gives him time to sort of refresh his marching shout, which I'll talk about in a second. And also it means that your slow nukers, right? Because copper and bulldozers typically don't have a lot of speed. They're not going to be too far behind, right? It's not like the opponent's going to get twice as many turns because his speed's so much higher than your slow units. So yeah, this helps control the fight. And another thing that helps control the fight is the second ability. So this one also decreases the attack bar. But additionally, it decreases attack speed with a 70% chance when it's max skilled. So this is a really nice, like it's very synergetic with his first skill. So you slow them, they're not moving very much, and then you get rid of like 30% of the attack bar, which is very nice, right? And I mean this skill also is a guaranteed attack bar reduction as opposed to the first skill, and it attacks all enemies. So if something happens to survive, you can slow both units. But you'll find that most of the time, as long as your units are ruined well and you pick the right target for it, you shouldn't really have more than one unit there. But it's always worth trying to slow them as soon as you can, basically on his next turn. Okay. Also, this attacks all enemies. So if you're using him in like an alternative situation where there might be more units on the board, then this works pretty well with Despair. He can potentially stun multiple units. Alright, and then the third skill, Marching Shout. So this is what makes him really strong, is that this is the same ability as Randy's buff, which increases defense and crit rate. It's for one less turn. I believe Randy does it for 3 turns, but it's only for 2 turns. But what you get, which is probably more important actually, is it fills up the allies' attack bar, whoever you target. So this is why he's a really good combination with Copper. Copper's usually very slow. Like, you focus all his substats towards defense and crit damage, and then enough crit rate to make him max crit. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for speed, right? Because you probably want attack a bit over speed, because the attack still increases his damage, and you want him to do as much damage as possible so that he can one-shot something. And also his base speed is extremely low, so having something like Imesety to boost him up, it's a really nice combination. And this allows you to even snipe things like Praha, which would traditionally be very hard, or pretty much impossible to copper into, right? So like the old combination that I used to use with copper was Randy and Chloe, and you could never really bring that against any team that has buff removal. But with Imesety you can, because you can speed up your copper to snipe the buff remover, unless they have 2 buff removers, which would be a bit awkward. But most teams in Guild Wars, they can only really fit 1 buff remover. So if you can take them out straight away, the common ones would probably be Praha and Bella. They're both very easy for Copper to take out, and it makes that fight a lot easier. And this ability is on a 4-turn cooldown when it's max, which is nice, but just something to note, you don't actually need to max skill him. It's nice to have, but he works very well still without any skill ups. So even for players who are unable to farm multiple horus, then farm at least 1. That way you have the unit, and once you're ready to build it, it's there for you, right? Never miss an opportunity to farm a 3-4 star unit from HOH, no matter what level you are, right? Even if you have to, as long as you can play B1, then you should farm it. And then lastly, the leader skill. This only applies for arena, which generally you probably won't really use him in arena that much, but you can use him if you speed sync him correctly to move after your galleon. And what that does is he basically will provide like the attack bar filling, right, so he can move a really slow nuker, and also crit rate buff. And this means it reduces the rune requirements of your nuker. So you can make a nuker, so you can just imagine, make a like attack crit damage attack nuker on rage or fatal, and just give him 0 speed substats. You just give him the runes that have the highest attack percent and crit damage percent as possible, and then enough crit rate to get him to 70% crit rate, which generally shouldn't be hard. I mean, even if you could even put Imesety as your leader, giving you another 24% crit, and that means Imesety alone will give your unit 54% crit. So pretty much almost no excuse to not be able to run an AoE nuker with Imesety and Galleon. And then your 4th slot, you probably want to run something like a buff remover, like Aquila, Praha, Juno, anything like that. Anything that can like mass remove buffs. Soha is another one. Yeah, those sort of units. And that way, so you remove all the will runes and whatnot. Galleon can do his time to loot, and then Imesety moves or helps move your slow nuker, preferably an LD nuker, so that because since you're only running 1 nuker in that team, you want that unit to be able to hit everything. So LD are the best for that. And yeah, then this is just a, I guess, an alternate way to attack. It's not definitely not the best way to attack, but it's an alternative. Alright, so that's pretty much his skills. Now for his rune sets, now I rune him Swift Broken just to give him as much speed as possible, right? You don't have to have Will on him, but you can. But typically when you bring him on Guild Wars offense, the teams that you would bring him against, you want him to move first anyway. So you would never really risk them like being outsped by the opponent. So if there's a Bernard there, you probably don't want to you don't really want to go in against that. So I don't really recommend Will unless you're running the whole team on Will, right? So if you're Bulldozer and Copper on Will with good damage, then you could run him on Will if you want, but not that necessary, right? As long as you pick the right targets for your Imesety. Now as far as the runes are concerned, as I said, you want to focus on the speed, and then secondarily you want HP and defense. After that, it doesn't really matter what else. You can give him accuracy to help him land his slow and his attack bar decrease, but it's not that necessary. I think what's most important is first off speed and then effective HP. So you can run a combination of HP and defense on slot 4 and 6. It doesn't matter. You can run double HP, double defense, one of each, doesn't matter, because in the end it's gonna increase his effective HP pool, and that's all that really matters, right? He wants to take as much of a beating as possible, so that you can survive for the next time you want to use him. And one of the main reasons why it's very important to make him very fast is there's a lot of segments on defense these days, and segment is a very natural counter to all these win attack bar buffers. Like she counters Tiana. If she's fast enough and the Bernard is slow enough, she could potentially counter that one too. But yeah, with Imesety, he's not going to really reach the speeds that Bernard would normally get to, right? And I believe Sekhmet's base speed is very similar to Imesety. So assuming then it's just like a battle of who's got the better runes. And if Sekhmet's faster and she resets your Imesety, then that's a bit awkward. That's why I like Imesety to be as fast as possible. There are some very fast Swift Sekhmets out there. Some are on Despair, some are on Violent. If you're confident and know that that opponent is not on Swift, then that's fine. But if you know, or if you don't know, and you're going in blind, it's a bit risky. So that's another reason why to make him as fast as you can. But as an alternative build, you can run him on Despair, as long as you have very good speed substats, right? So you still want to get him to be like something like 230 plus speed, depending on what level of Guild Wars you're fighting. I think the higher you are, so in Guardian 3 Wars, you probably want your Imesety to be at least 250 speed, because there are a lot of Prahas out there that are very fast. Like the fastest ones I see that are usually like 240, 250. Those are like the top end ones. And you want to make sure you can outspeed those, so that way your Copper can snipe them. Alright? So that's just something to keep in mind. But I guess it depends how you want to use them too. Like, having Despair does give him additional utility, so there's that. But yeah, those are the two main builds I would say. Maybe a preferred alternative build is to run him Shield, Will. So maybe you want to run a team that's a bit slower with Shield and Will sets on everyone, and just tank the initial damage and then you move after that. That's another possibility. It really just depends on your runes and like just your own play style, right? It's your personal preference. But that would be my recommendation. And yeah, so I'm not going to really show you him in action because you've probably seen him enough, and end of the day he really is mostly just there for the buff. He doesn't really do much damage, so like I'm not really showcasing much by showing him on like that. So yeah, that pretty much covers Imesety. So feel free to leave me a question in the comments if I missed anything. and I'll get back to you as soon as I can about that. So yeah, that pretty much covers it. This is probably the most useful HOH that Comtawise has given to us in a long time, so definitely enjoy it. And as I said earlier, if you can farm B1, definitely get at least one. I wouldn't really, I wouldn't say farm more than that if you can only farm B1, because it's not very energy efficient. If you can run B2, then you can farm a few of them, but again, they're still not that great in terms of energy efficiency. You will burn a lot of crystals to farm them, but you can farm a few if you want. But if you can farm B3, that's obviously when you would want to farm as many as you can, and they're good for skill ups because the horus does require quite a lot of skill ups to max, and every little bit helps for the world boss. So yeah, there's that, and he also is skill ups for the water horus, which is also useful and a fusible monster. So for people that aren't able to farm a lot of horuses, don't be too afraid. Like at worst, eventually you could just fuse additional horuses for skill ups if you're really desperate. But as I said, you don't really need the skill ups to make him work. It's just a bit of a luxury, really. So yeah, so definitely enjoy the HOH. Have fun with this unit. He's amazing in Guild Wars. I think it gives everyone a very accessible Guild Wars offense, and a very strong one at that. So thanks guys for watching, and I hope this is very helpful for you, and enjoy your weekend of HOH farming, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.